Welcome, everybody, to the Upper East Side of Manhattan. We are here in New York City, what some people call the greatest city in the world. Notice I said some people. There are a lot of other places in this world. We have other countries. We have other continents. And together, this makes the world. All of us here today, I think we can agree, are human beings, correct? Well, that is the thing we have in common. And I'm here today to talk about an epidemic that each and every one of us is afflicted with. It's not cancer. It's not some other debilitating illness. And it's not even this head cold that I have come in contact with in August. It's fear. We all have it. And it is detrimental to our health. It is detrimental to our happiness. I hope by the end of this, I have a solution for you. But that's the challenge. There isn't just a pill. There isn't one counseling session you can go to. It's about how you live your life. And to start off, I'm going to give you the statistics behind fear to kind of put this into perspective. A study in the United Kingdom discovered that we spend 14 hours per week in fear or in worry. If you do the math, that amounts to 2 hours per day. And if you sleep 8 hours a day, you're awake for 16 hours a day, which means 2 hours of the 16 hours you're in fear, which is 1 out of 8, and I don't do the percentage in my head, but that's a lot of time wasted. Okay, so let's take that even a step further. That's 12.5% of your time that you spend awake in fear. 12.5%. If you could get that in the stock market, you would take that and run, but we're wasting that time. The study continued to examine the impact of fear on us. And they came to find out that 45% of the people in this study reported a negative health impact because of fear. 45% saying it impacts them negatively. But why do we do it? We continue to do this to ourselves. So I did some additional math based on this study. And averaging a lifespan of 75 years, I came to the conclusion that we spend 5 years of our lives in worry and fear. 5 whole years. So this is 75 years. Each block is 5 years. That's our wasted time. And inevitably, about once a year, there's a story some publication puts out about elderly people and their feelings as they near the end of their lives. And each time the conclusion in those stories is, I wish I'd spent less time worrying and more time living my life. And we all read them and we're like, oh yeah, I know that. No, we don't. We continue to do this and do this and do this. How do I know that we continue to do this? Because in the book, Brain at Work, they report that in our lives, our brain works in a smart way. When we see a problem today, to solve it, our brain, to save energy, looks back and asks itself, have I encountered this before? And if it has, the brain uses what we learned the last time to solve this problem today. Okay, that sounds really good and really efficient. But what happens is, have we solved every problem in the past the right way? Probably not. And that being said, if we use what we did yesterday to solve today and tomorrow's problems, aren't we just perpetually going and making mistakes and recreating fear in our lives? I might be over-exaggerating that fact, but bear with me here as I go through this. In the book, Proust was a neuroscientist. George Eliot is quoted as saying, we are not marble. Human beings are not marble. One person gets sick, one person gets healthy, one person ends up being a Sotheby auctioneer, and the other person doesn't. We get to make choices in our life every second of every day. How we spend our time, what we spend our time on, and what we think about. And so a study just was released by Carnegie Mellon in 2013. This is fresh. I was asking myself, so why is this? Why have we done this to ourselves? This is also a little general, but they said that the internet has caused us to be more isolated and depressed. Okay, so how does that relate to this idea of fear and worry? A story for you. When I was a junior in high school, we lost a classmate. And at that age, 16, 17, that's a really tough time to lose someone that you've grown up with. And at that time also was when AOL Instant Messenger was really big. That's how we all communicated. And for us to share our emotions through that experience, we did it at night. over the computer to the safety of our computer screens. When we would go to school, it was almost like nothing had happened. We didn't talk about it, we didn't cry with each other, we didn't hug each other, and we had just lost one of our friends. Were we worried about how we would be perceived? Were we fearful to share that emotion? I know I was. It's much safer to offer a hug than a hug. So going forward, there was a study done in Vancouver, British Columbia, about happiness. And they used 4th and 5th graders to do this study. And we've all heard of the concept, random acts of kindness. And we laugh inside about it because it sounds stupid and it sounds cliched, but here's what happened with the study. They asked these 4th and 5th graders to perform random acts of kindness. What were they? When they would get home from school, the first thing they would do would be hug their mother or hug their father, whoever happens to be home. At lunchtime, share their lunch with a classmate, not necessarily a friend, just someone who's in their class. And throughout this study, they did these little random acts of kindness. And at the end, they asked questions about, well, how did you feel? What did you think when you were doing this? And what they found was that in performing these random acts of kindness, the students were happier and they were more welcoming to their fellow classmate. They weren't as prejudicial as they had been before. Amazing. Being nice can have positive impacts, right? They were more welcoming to their own community, less fearful of each other just because they were nice. It's a nice thought. The National Academy of Sciences also just released a study, and their conclusion sounds simple, 4 words: we see, we do. Okay, what does that mean and how does that relate to fear? If we see someone fearful, we naturally get a little fearful instinct ourselves. Taking it a step further, if we see someone be nice, we too tend to be nicer. If we see someone be mean, we get meaner. If we see someone be rude, we get ruder. I met with one of the mayoral candidates a couple weeks ago here in New York City, and he talked about the MTA. And a lot of us probably took the subway or bus to get here, and I think we can all admit it's not the cleanest place in the world. And his comment was, if we just cared a little bit, it could be the cleanest place in the city. But because we see one person litter, it makes it okay for me to litter and for the next person to litter. It's this perpetual cycle. Are we afraid to take a stand and say, don't throw that, there's a trash can right there? Again, it's all about those choices. FDR, one of the United States' presidents, served 4 terms. In his first inaugural address, he has a very famous line, and I'm certain you all have heard this line. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Was he prophetic? I don't know. I think he's right. But how many of you have actually heard the next line in his speech? Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror. That is how FDR defined fear. Nameless, unreasoning, and unjustified. And yet, we waste 5 years of our lives on it. Now it's time to find a solution. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm just like you. So through my research, I came up with a couple examples of how we can solve this epidemic. And it's about displaying fearlessness. It's about living our lives and making those smart choices to not let those fears impact us negatively. By the time we reach 10 years old, we have learned quite a bit. In fact, we have learned almost all the stuff we need to know to function on a day-to-day level. One of those things is the meaning of words. We learned facial expressions. We learned tonality. When I was 5 years old, I had to wear an eye patch to school. I still have a lazy eye, but it's not noticeable anymore. But I had to wear this eye patch to try and correct my vision. And at 5 years old, that's a really delicate time. And when you get called names for wearing an eye patch and glasses over the eye patch, that sticks with you. I have terrible eyesight. I'm wearing contacts today. But it wasn't until my 29th year that I felt comfortable making a choice to wear glasses again, because I'd been so stigmatized that wearing glasses is a negative thing, that it makes me look weird and feel weird. I let other people control that thought. Imagine for a moment you're engaged to someone and they are the love of your life, and then they die in a tragic accident. As bad as that is, then imagine that your fiance's family doesn't let you go to the visitation, doesn't let you go to the funeral because they weren't okay with your relationship to begin with. That happened to a gentleman named Shane, and he posted a video online a year ago called "It Could Happen to You." Okay, why does that matter? Shane admits that up until the moment his partner in life died, he wasn't okay being outward with his homosexuality. It took that death for him to realize, wait a second, I should stand up for myself. And through that journey, he created a documentary called Bridegroom. It debuted at the Tribeca Film Festival, and he has shattered his own fears. Take Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook, arguably one of the most important tech companies of the last decade. It's been very public that she leaves work at 5:30 to go home and be with her children. Now, why does that relate to any of this? It relates because she is taking a stand. She is no longer afraid of what people are going to think about that. I admire her for that. I love her for that. For being able to say, my family is important, my work is important, and I can balance them both. And we shouldn't be afraid of having that life-work balance. So what's the cure for this disease? What's the cure for this problem? There's a parable that will give it to you. So listen up. It's about an old wise man who lives up in the mountains. And he's wise, remember that. And there are these two young boys down in the village who have decided that they want to trick him. They want to show the village that he's not as wise as he's made out to be. So one day he comes down to the village to share his wisdom. And the boys have devised a trick. You see, they've caught this little bird. And they're going to hold the bird in their hand. And they're going to ask him a question about this bird. And no matter which way he answers, he's going to be proven wrong. So they go up to the old wise man and they say, "Old wise man, what do we have in our hands?" And the old wise man, being wise, says, "You have a bird." Okay, he's right. Then they put their hands and cover the bird. And they ask the old wise man, "Old wise man, is the bird alive or is it dead?" And here's where the trick comes in. If the old wise man says that the bird is alive, the kids have decided they're going to kill the bird, open their hands, and the bird will be dead. Old wise man is wrong. If the old wise man says the bird is alive, the old wise man says the bird is dead, they're going to let it live, and it'll fly away. And the old wise man will again be wrong. He's in a lose-lose. But he's wise, remember. And he teaches them and us the cure for this disease. He says, the bird is as you choose it to be. Life, your fear, your worries, those 5 years are as you choose it to be.